Hi everybody, welcome back. I hope you had a good short break. If you have any questions about the prepositions, you can ask me now. I think the biggest confusion was about the days and the dates compared with a month. So if we're talking about a whole month, the month is a larger period of time. So it would be somewhere in the month. If we're talking about having a lesson in April, it could be on the 1st, the 10th, the 30th, somewhere in April. So that's a larger period of time. So it would be in April. I don't know which day. Sometime in April, we will have a lesson. But if I know which day, April 30th, then I can say it's on April 30th, on Thursday, April 30th. So I know which day, the specific day or date, on. If it's just in the month, in. Okay, I hope that's a little bit clearer for you. Okay, we'll give another minute for everyone to get back. Okay, and then I'll pull up the review page in case you want to write down these rules for these prepositions. You might want to just jot that down so you have it someplace. Okay, so when we're talking about time, in is for a larger period of time. The years, the months, the periods of the day or the year, and you can just write down the examples. In 2020, in June, in the morning, in winter. On is for days and dates. On Thursday, on July 21st. At is for specific times, at 12 o'clock, at noon. And it's similar for places, where in is for very large places, countries, cities, states, and also for inside a building. In Mexico, in New York, in Mexico, in the library. On is used for the names of streets, on Main Street. And we use that if we aren't talking about the specific number in the address. If we are talking about that specific number, then we would use at 5 Smith Street or at the park. Okay, so if you want to write down those rules before we move on, that could be helpful. Mehmet, you don't understand in November? So if we have a whole month, the whole month of November, maybe we have a date, November 1st, November 15th. We don't know. We're not talking about which specific. It's somewhere in the month. Could be any of those days. So we say in November, because it could be any of those days. Okay, if we know exactly what date, then we would say on November 15th. Okay? But if we're not sure which date, I don't know, sometime in November. Does that make sense? Okay, I hope that helps, that explanation. And if you want to write down these rules or the examples, you can. Okay, maybe I can post them on our Instagram. Okay. Okay, thanks, Mehmet. I'm glad you understand. Okay, so let's move on to telling time. Okay, if no one has any more questions, we'll move on to telling the time. Okay, so these are just a few ways to ask someone if they have the time, if they know what time it is, okay? So it's always polite to start with excuse me when we're going to ask someone a question. So you could say, excuse me, what time is it? Okay, and I want you to repeat after me. Excuse me, what time is it? Excuse me, do you have the time? Excuse me, do you know the time? Excuse me, do you know what time it is? These are just different ways, different variations of asking the same question. So we're just asking what time it is. Okay, but these are just some different ways you might hear someone, or you might want to use them yourself. And remember, when you're asking someone a question, it's always polite to say excuse me first. Okay? So you can practice saying those out loud. Excuse me, what time is it? Do you have the time? Do you know the time? Do you know what time it is? Okay, and here are some ways to answer. So maybe you don't know what time it is. Maybe you don't have your phone or your watch. You could say, no, sorry. But if you do know, you could just say, yes, it's 12 o'clock. Sure, it's 12 o'clock. Or you could just say, it's 12 o'clock. Okay? So those are some ways you might hear someone tell you the time, or you can answer yourself. Okay, so 1 o'clock, we can spell out and write 1 o'clock. 12 p.m., we can also say noon, right? That's in the middle of the day when we eat our lunch. Right now, it's in New Jersey, it's 12 o'clock. It's about noon right now. 12 o'clock a.m. when we're sleeping is midnight. Okay, we say midnight. Okay, so 1 hour equals 60 minutes. 1 hour equals 60 minutes. So half of an hour would be 30 minutes. A quarter of an hour would be 15 minutes. So it's very common for us to tell the time using those words. Instead of saying 2:30, we could say it's 2:30. Because half is 30 minutes. Half of an hour is 30 minutes. 1 hour, 60. Half, 30. So if it's 2:30, I might say, it's 2:30. Excuse me, what time is it? It's 2:30. Okay, if it's 2:15, because 15 is a quarter of an hour, we could say it's 2:15 or 2:15. Excuse me, what time is it? It's 2:15. Okay, or you could say 2:15. If it's 2:45, 45 is 3/4. But because it's closer to 3 o'clock, we might take away that 15 minutes to make it 2:45. So we would say it's 2:45. It's 2:45. So 2:45 or 2:45, because it would be a quarter of an hour until it's 3 o'clock. Does anybody have any questions so far? Or is that pretty clear? Is this new for you or is this a review? Because it could be a good review even if you've already learned these time words. Erin? Hi, Erin. Okay, if there are no questions, then I'd like to give it a try. So if it's 6:30, we can say 6:30 or 6:30. So now I want you to try. We can say 4:15 or what can we say there? 4:15 or yes, Erin is famous. Mehmet, you are famous too. Okay, so 4:15 or remember 15 we call a quarter. It's a quarter of an hour. So it would be 4:15 or 4:15. Good. Yes, 4:15. How about 7:30? We could say 7:30 or what else can we say? 7:30 or 7:30. Good. Yep, 7:30. How about 12:45? How else can we say 12:45? It's 12:45 or 1:45. Because in 15 minutes, it will be 1 o'clock. Good, Anne. So it's 1:45. So we can say 12:45 or 1:45. How about 5:15? 5:15 or 5:15 or 5:15. Good. Or we can say 5:15. How about 11:30? 11:30 or 11:30 or 11:30. Good. Okay, so remember 15 minutes is 1/4 or 1/4. 30 minutes, 1/2. And when it's 45, we say it's 1:45. Okay, so if it's 30 minutes or less, we say after or past the hour. So if it's 3:05, we could say it's 3:05 or it's 3:05. If it's 5:10, we could say it's 5:10 or 5:10. Okay, if it's 30 minutes, if it's more than 30 minutes past the hour, we say 2 or until the next hour. So 4:40 would be 20 to 5 or 20 until 5. It's 20 to 5. If it's 6:55, we would say it's 5 to 7 or 5 until 7. Okay, so, excuse me, what time is it? It's 5 to 7. Okay, does anyone have any questions? Okay, if you don't have any questions, let's practice. I want you to write at least 2 ways to say these times. At least 2 different ways that you can write out these times. Okay, so for 12 o'clock p.m., which is in the middle of the day, we could say it's 12 o'clock, or we can say it's noon, right? So we did number 1 together. Now I want you to try the rest and write 2 ways to say it. Okay? I'll give you a minute. Yep, both are correct. Past and after are both correct. Usually when we use half, we say half past and not half after. But if we say maybe a quarter after, we can say that. A quarter past or a quarter after. But they're both correct. It's just which you might hear more common. I think I always say half past and a quarter after, but that's just for me, what I say more often. But they would both be correct. No problem. Okay, so try these. Try and write 2 different ways. And you should be practicing saying these out loud too. Even though I'm not there to hear you, you should still be trying to say them out loud. The more you speak, the better you'll get. Okay, so you're writing 2 different ways to say each time. So 12 o'clock, we could say 12 o'clock or noon. Another minute, and then I'll pull up the answers. Okay, and if this is a review for you and you know all of this already, then it's a good time to practice your pronunciation. Okay, you can try and copy the way that I speak. I have a pretty general American accent, so you can try and copy my pronunciation after I say each word. Okay, just another minute. Is everyone almost done? All right, let's bring up some answers. And you can see if this is the same as you got. Okay, so number 1, we said 12 o'clock or noon. Number 2, 1:05, 5 after 1, or 5 past 1. So any of those would be correct. Number 3, 2:50, 10 to 3, 10 until 3. And remember, it's good to practice your pronunciation by repeating after me. Okay, number 4, 4:55, 5 to 5, 5 until 5. Number 5, 9:15, 9:15, 9:15. Number 6, 11:20, 20 after 11, 20 past 11. Number 7, 3:10, 10 after 3, 10 past 3. Number 8, 8:45, 8:45, 9:15 until 9. Number 9, 1:40, 20 to 2, 20 until 2. Number 10, 11:10, 10 after 11, 10 past 11. Okay, any questions about telling the time this way? Or does anyone want to hear me say anything for pronunciation to copy? You might have noticed that when I have the word to, T-O, in the middle of these words, when I might say 20 to 2, that 2 is very, very small. It's very shortened. Okay, 20 to 2, 20 to 2. Okay. You also might have noticed in words like 20, I don't have the t at the end of that word in the middle there. So I would say 20 instead of 20. And that's the American accent. And that's one of the big differences between an American accent and a British accent, where I won't have that. I'll say 20 and not 20. So you'll hear me say things like 20 to 2 or 40 instead of 40. Okay, I don't have that sharp T because I have an American accent. Okay. So 00, Mehmet, would be midnight, right? Midnight. AM, before the noon, PM, after the noon. So the one when you're sleeping at 12 a.m. is midnight. And the one around now, when we would eat lunchtime, at least here in New Jersey, we would say noon. So AM is the one when we're sleeping, and PM starts when we're eating lunch. Okay, does that help? Does that answer the question? Okay. So now I want, if no one has any questions, we'll move on. And we're going to talk about some common phrases. Remember, a phrase is a few words put together for talking about dates and appointments. So have you ever had to make an appointment using English? Has anyone ever had to do that? Because that could be pretty challenging. Right now in New Jersey, it's 12:27 p.m. Adam, it's about lunchtime right now. Okay, so it's almost 12:30. 12:30 noon. Okay, so has anyone ever had to make an appointment for something using English? Was it very difficult for you? Yeah, doctor's appointments. So what's the most difficult? Is it understanding the person that you're trying to make the appointment with, or expressing yourself, or both? What would you think is the most difficult? Because I think it could be pretty scary if you have to make an appointment, especially if it's something important like for a doctor and you have to speak English. Okay, so we have to make sure we understand the phrases that other people might use in English, and also so that we can express ourselves so they understand us. Okay, so both are very important. So I want to talk about the word can. Can sometimes indicates ability. The negative form of can is can't. She can cook very well. And I want you to take note of my pronunciation when I use this for ability in the middle of a sentence. She can cook very well. Okay, so she's a good cook. She has the ability to cook well. She can cook very well. She can't sing though. Okay, she can't. She's not able to sing. She can cook very well. She can't sing though. Okay. An alternative way to indicate ability is be able to. This is another way. So we can say can or able to. She can cook very well. She is able to cook very well. She can't sing though. She isn't able to sing though. So they mean the same thing. So I want to try. I want you to think of something, an ability that you have or you can't do, or you can ask me. Okay? Can you swim? Yes, I can swim. Or no, I can't swim. Anybody want to use a question? Try asking a question about ability. And you can use can you or are you able to? I'll ask you, can you cook? Can you climb a mountain? I don't know if I can climb a mountain. I can try to climb a mountain. Can you climb a mountain? Can you talk? No, I'm not able to climb the mountain. Good, Anne. Fatih says, can you talk? Or you might ask, can you speak English? are you able to speak English? Okay, it's ability. So can you? Okay. All right, good. Have to, and we talked about this pronunciation a little bit last week. When I say have to indicate obligation or necessity, that V turns to a soft letter. Have to, have to. Okay, and I put the verb paradigm here so that you can see the conjugation for this third person singular on your screen. So I have to, we have to, you have to, you all have to, he, she, or it has to, they have to. I have to pay my taxes. Yeah, same. Me too. Okay, so now that we worked on that pronunciation, I have to be at work at 7 o'clock. I have to. So that's an obligation. It's something I must do. I have to be at work at 7 o'clock. She has to be at work at 7 o'clock. Do you have to go to work? Does she have to go to work? Okay, so have to indicate obligation or necessity. Have to or has to. Okay, and I want you to really notice my pronunciation there when I use it. Okay, because it gets to have a softer sound. Has. Okay. So we use these for invitations. We might say, can you go to the movies on Friday night? And notice that preposition on Friday night from earlier. Can you go to the movies on Friday night? So I'm asking if you're able to go to the movies. Can you go to the movies on Friday night? I'm sorry, I can't. I have to work. So, if you have to decline an invitation, if you're telling someone that you can't go with them, it's always polite to give them a reason. Tell them why you can't. Okay? Can you go to the movies on Friday night? I'm sorry, I can't. I have to go to work. So I'm saying I can't because I'm obligated to do something else. I must work. Okay, so I hope that is clear. Does anyone want to practice in the chat? I have to teach English. Yeah, Mehmet, I would say I have to teach English. You might say I have to learn English or I have to study English. So if I ask you, Mehmet, can you go to the movies on Friday night? You might say, I'm sorry, I can't. I have to study my English. Okay. No, I don't have to go to work at these days because of the virus. Yeah, I don't have to go to work. And also, we can't go to the movies because of the virus, right? We're all home. So does anyone have any questions about if you're inviting someone or asking them if they have the ability to meet you or go someplace using can? And if you decline, remember it's polite to tell them why you can't go. So if I said, can you go to the movie? And you just say, I'm sorry, I can't. I might be like, but why? Why won't they go with me? So to save someone's feelings, you tell them, I have to work. Give them a reason why. I have to study. Okay? Yeah, and I have to hit the books. I'm sorry, I can't. I have to hit the books. Okay, we remember that from our idioms last week. Hit the books. Okay, good. Supposed to. Supposed to indicates advice to follow a custom. It's an expected behavior, something you should do. So it might not be something you must do, something you're obligated to do. Like when we say, I have to work, you're obligated. But if you say you're supposed to do something, it's just something you should do, not something you must do. So let's look at some examples. The students are supposed to be seated at their desks before the bell rings. Okay, it's something that they should be doing. You're not supposed to text during class. Okay, you shouldn't do it. You're not supposed to. You are supposed to call to make an appointment to see a doctor, right? You should call. It's not good to just walk into the doctor's office. You're supposed to call first. You should call first. Okay? The difference between can and could. So here when we're saying can, we're talking about the ability. Could, let's see, could means they mean very similar things. I'll try and get back to you with a clearer explanation on that for next time, the difference between can and could. Okay. How about? So how about is a way of making a suggestion. And this is very conversational. It's a very common way to suggest something. So let's look at some conversations. I want to go shopping, right? Remember my pronunciation that we talked about last week? I want to go shopping. How about we go this afternoon? So I'm using how about to make the suggestion for the time. I want to go shopping. How about we go this afternoon? I'd like a morning appointment. How about 11? So I'm asking, is 11 o'clock okay? How about 11? So this is a very common way of making a suggestion and asking someone if that's a good time. So if you hear someone say it, this way you'll know what they're talking about. Or you can use it too as a more casual conversational piece. How about we go this afternoon? How about 11? Let's say. Let's say is a way of making a more forceful suggestion. So how about is an easy way of making the suggestion. It's a weaker way. How about 11? I want to go shopping. I want to go shopping. Let's say we go after you do your homework. So if I'm saying how about, I'm asking them if it's okay. If I say let's say, it's more forceful. Can you pick me up at 5? Let's say 5:30. I can't get there by 5. If I asked, how about 5:30? The other person might say no, but if I say let's say, it's much more forceful. I'm telling you this is the better time. Let's say 5:30. I can't get there by 5. Okay, so that's a more forceful way of making the suggestion. Is that pretty clear? So 2 ways of suggesting times. One is a little weaker. How about? Let's say is more forceful. I want to go shopping. How about we go this afternoon? But if you said, I want to go shopping, let's say we go this afternoon. That's a little bit more forceful way of saying it. Okay? So let's try this practice conversation. And it's good if you can try and say it on your own. Okay, so I'll say it, and then you can repeat the words after me. Hi, Anna. Would you like to go to lunch with me tomorrow? I'm sorry, I can't. I have to work. That's too bad. How about Sunday? That sounds great. How about 11:30? Let's say 12 o'clock. Perfect. Okay? So you can practice saying that, and you can see how we started with the suggestion about Sunday. How about Sunday? And she suggested, how about 11:30? It was a weak suggestion. And then the response, let's say 12 o'clock. More forceful, more certain. Let's say 12 o'clock. And this is an idiomatic phrase similar to some that we looked at last week. So if you have too much on your plate, have too much on one's plate, you can picture a plate like a dinner plate. And maybe if you put too much food, you can't eat it all, right? But having too much on one's plate is an expression that means that you're very, very busy. You have too many things to do, too many things to handle. So sometimes we'll say, I have a lot on my plate. I have a lot on my plate right now. This means that someone's very busy. So maybe someone asks me, Melanie, can you do some extra work for me tomorrow? I'm sorry, I can't. I have too much on my plate right now. I have a lot on my plate. It means that I have a lot of things to do. I'm very, very busy. I'd like to help you out, but we just moved to a new house. I started a new job and the kids are sick. I just have too much on my plate right now. Okay, so this can be another reason if someone asks you to do something and you can't. You could say, I'm so sorry. I just have too much on my plate right now. Okay. And perfect. We saw this in the conversation. It indicates that you accept the suggestion or offer. I can give you a 9 o'clock appointment. Perfect. Right? We saw it in the conversation where we said, how about 11? Perfect. Of course. Of course indicates that what was said is agreed to or obvious. Will you help me with my homework? Of course. Okay, so we use of course. You're agreeing to it. Of course I will help you. Of course. No problem can mean that a request is accepted. We used no problem last week for other ways to say you're welcome. No, thank you, no problem. So no problem can also mean that a request is accepted. Is it okay if I come in late tomorrow? No problem. Okay, and the way we saw it last week as another way of saying you're welcome. Thanks for seeing me today. No problem. Okay, so we learned a few new phrases today. And now I want to see if you can write down the phrases. See if you recognize them when I say them. So see if you can hear the word correctly and write it down. Okay, so there are some questions and some sentences. And these are going to be all mixed from all the lessons we had today. It's going to be the new vocabulary, some time words, okay? So you can type it into the chat or you can write it down on paper. Okay, so I hope everyone's ready. Number 1, what time is it? What time is it? What time is it? Number 2, it's about 10:15. It's about 10:15. It's about 10:15. Number 3, would you like to go to lunch at noon? Would you like to go to lunch at noon? Would you like to go to lunch at noon? Number 4, sorry, I have to work. Sorry, I have to work. Sorry, I have to work. Number 5, no problem. No problem. No problem. Number 6, can you go at 1:30? 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 Good. I see all the answers coming in. You guys are doing great. Number 7, I have too much on my plate. 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 Number 8, of course. Of course. Number 9, how about Thursday? How about Thursday? How about Thursday? How about Thursday? And number 10, perfect. Let's say 2 o'clock. 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 Okay, so you can check your answers and practice your pronunciation. So say these out loud. Okay, so you can read them with your answers that you wrote down and say them out loud. What time is it? It's about 10:15. Would you like to go to lunch at noon? Sorry, I have to work. No problem. Can you go at 1:30? I have too much on my plate. Of course. How about Thursday? Perfect. Let's say 2 o'clock. Okay, so I hope everyone got those right. So we went over a lot of things today. We went over the prepositions and reviewed how to pronounce the numbers. We learned some new phrases, talked about different ways to say the time. So you definitely have a lot to practice. Does anyone want to see any of the slides again so that you can maybe write something down or copy something down? I know we're at the end of our class, but if there are any slides you'd like to look at, if there's anything you'd like me to say so you can hear my pronunciation. I'm glad you liked it, Erin. Okay, and if anyone has any suggestions for anything that they would like to have a lesson on, I'd be happy to make up a lesson for another topic. I think today the most difficult thing that we worked on were the prepositions. So I'm going to pull up those rules again so you can take a minute to look at them. And remember, it just takes practice. But I want you today and through the weekend, if you're watching television in English or if you're reading, I want you to really try to listen for these prepositions, to hear how people are saying them and how they're using them. Okay, because once you become more aware of hearing them, you'll see what sounds natural and you'll be able to use them more naturally. Okay. Pronouns. Okay, Erin, we can talk about pronouns. I can work on a lesson for that. Okay, and here's the practice. Here's the review page for in, on, at. Is this the one you wanted? Okay, and Erin, I'll make note that you want something on pronouns, and I'll try and make a lesson for that in the next few weeks. Okay, if no one has any other questions, make sure you're practicing. Okay, we also learned a way to make that TH sound, as in 3 or 30. So you might want to practice that one in the mirror to make sure that your tongue is between your teeth. Okay, so you can practice that in the mirror. 3, 30. Okay. Again, it just takes a lot of practice. I know it's difficult, especially if we're all adults learning. It's much more difficult for adults to learn new sounds and new languages. Okay. Good, Erin. You'll have to call us if you come to the US. Maybe you can come visit us in New Jersey. Okay. This one, Anne? Okay, I'll leave this up for a minute so you can check your answers, or you can practice your pronunciation with these sentences. These are some good sentences to practice pronunciation with. Okay. All right. I hope everyone enjoyed the lesson. Yeah, good evening, Adam. Okay. All right, well, thank you for participating in the lesson. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next week. Have a good week, everyone. Bye.